Hello, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. My friend at Nafu once again decide to join Mondays as usual. And at Nafu, welcome, my
Hey,
brother.
how are you, Mr. Yasin? Good afternoon. Doing
Good,
fine.
good afternoon.
Uh,
So today we have a big question, and since it seems that a lot of people are not talking about it, we decided to just start the conversation, even though there's a different conversations going on in different areas.
right.
So uh, the question on the floor at NAFU is peace and reconciliation possible in Ethiopia? The floor is yours.
Oh well. Uh, it's not popular topic at this time in the Ethiopian community, in every direction, unfortunately. But for me, or for reasonable people, um, who knows the civil rights movement, who has been fighting for justice, freedom, equality for all. Um, I cannot give up the necessity of peace and reconciliation in general. But the question is, in the Ethiopian context now, is it is it possible at all? So, but for me, uh, what's this conflict, this war, bringing us to when I say us, to the Ethiopian people? What's bringing to the Ethiopian people? Probably more than 100,000 people already dead ever since this conflict has started. About 24, 23 million people are in need of food assistance at this time. Almost one fourth, one fifth of the Ethiopian population, the entire population, are in need of the humanitarian assistance in some form. So many people, 8 million, 7 million people already displaced in the country. The economy already shattered in that country. The inflation, hyperinflation, that people are unable to buy basic necessities, food, and other stuff, the way they used to buy with the money they earn. Everything is expensive. Um, Sometimes I wonder how the people are really managed to support five, six, seven, some of them 10 family members with one parent fixed income, and how the our people lives is always a mystery. But they're trying to survive. But the question is, this war is a war between brothers and sisters. It's not somebody who came from Europe or America or any other country to try to conquer you and fight the way you used to fight for our survival and freedom. And we know how to fight those wars, and we know how to win those wars. Now, what we are going through is we are fighting each other, which is the ugliest part of the fight, is a civil war.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the some border, you have your cousins, your sister married to somebody from without some other ethnic group. We are intermarried. We share a lot of history. We live together thousands of years. We share culture, religion, everything. But because of some politics that were planted like 30 years ago in our history, Ethiopians are fighting against Ethiopians, which is sad, which is a very dark dot in our history. We're supposed to we were the first nation. We always brag that Ethiopians are primary one of the first nations who established government. If you establish government, you have law and order. You may have differences. You may have fights for power, but we never had a civil war like this in our history, based on our ethnicity, who we are. It's sad, honestly, and I feel ashamed when I see it that the world is laughing at us. And of all things, we are not self-sufficient even to feed ourselves, and we are begging the world to feed us, to give us assistance for 24 million people who cannot feed themselves.
Mm.
At the same time, we take those resources and destroy resources, destroy infrastructures, destroy hospitals, clinics, universities, neighborhoods, even cattle. I don't I don't remember anything like this in our history, in my lifetime, or I read history, and we are in a very shameful situation at this time. And for me, winning is not by one side winning the other by force. That may bring us temporary solution. That's not going to get us stable solution, sustainable solution for our conflict. So we Ethiopians need to think to resolve our differences through dialogue, peace, and reconciliation. Some people say, when you say this, some people say you're trying to save this part. It's simply, it's not saving one part, it's saving our people. Who is dying? Is only one side dying? Is only Tigrayans dying? No. Everybody is dying. Every side is dying. Everybody is suffering. We got to stop it. We got to decide to stop it. We got to influence those who are perpetuating war to stop it and sit down, negotiate, and reconcile and move on. So I cannot give up on peace and reconciliation. Honestly, it doesn't matter who is on the winning side. It doesn't matter the the outcome, but peace, reconciliation, and peace, I cannot give up on that. And this has been my um, stand ever since this conflict started. I was not happy when the war started. There should have been other ways to resolve differences. But when you try to examine uh, what is the underlying cause of this war, can anybody answer that? Uh, it started by for law and order, but now with the United Nations involved to broke a peace through the ex-Nigerian president, Mr. Obasanjo, they both acknowledge, both the Ethiopian government and the TPLF leaders acknowledge that their difference is political. Did you observe
Yeah.
that? No, not many people observe. It has a lot of meaning. They were not telling us that. They were not telling. The government was not telling us. TPLF was not telling us. They have their own story why the war has started. Both of them have their own story. Let's keep that now. But now the truth came out. It was about politics. Politics is what? Power. The underlying cause of this conflict is power. But who is suffering by this conflict? The poor people, our people, our relatives, our cousins, our kids, our sisters, our mothers. are dying, displaced, hungry, and in a misery situation. So we don't have to give up for peace and reconciliation, my dear friend Yasin.
Okay. So now you touch a lot of points. And let me just try to uh, break it down and put it in chunks. So, in terms of war, you say that this war is between two brothers. Is that, and I will argue there's more than two brothers that's in this war. There's so many other factors,
Yeah, yeah.
external groups
Mhm, mhm.
that who have certain hidden agenda that who are in this war, and everybody is using any resource and all resources that they can get it. But what I have a problem on the Ethiopian context of what's the root cause of this problem is from somebody who's from the Somali, my family is from the Somali region, and there was Ethiopia was a contradiction to all its life. It is one that's war within and one that's war without. What I mean is this: Somali's region was in war for what past 30 years or 40 years, even longer. And the other day, I was just thinking, I said, you know what? Ethiopia always the problem was Somalia. There's a war that's happening. There's a secessionist. There is this happening. The focus to mobilize people was because of the Somalia wants to invade and take Somali region, and we have to defend the territory. So a lot of successive regimes in Ethiopia, when they were in power, that was the rallying point of nationalism.
Yeah.
Somali region was destroyed. Uh, uh, Not only that, even Meles invaded, went to Somalia for the pretext of defending the territorial integrity of Ethiopia. And a lot of friends that time were just saying that. I'm not going to go to that one, but the conflict is that saying that I thought it was now the Somali region is in peace. We emphasize that that region has to. We've been enough war, but right now a lot of people that will always want a peace and reconciliation are the drumbeats of war. So let's talk about brothers killing brothers, and the brothers were killing brothers in my argument for generations, for past what 3 years while Abiy was in power, there was more conflict in Ethiopia than any other time. I would argue that. Well, and in every region in Ethiopia there was a conflict. So now, is this conflict something that just came out of nowhere? On and but which we know it's not it. And now we know that it's clear that the political elites are not agreeing the solution of the country, which
Mhm.
is what Abasan just said. It's a political problem. It's this
Yeah.
conflict, and a lot of people are confused about what this conflict is all about. Okay, some are saying borders, some are saying so. If we only stick to the political problem of Ethiopia and forget about the land, that's the land dispute, because I don't. One thing that does not make any sense is that if we are a country that's together, land disputes should be the least of the conflicts.
Mhm.
But if we are not country that's together, and every nation and nationality and ethnic states its own independence, then there is no doubt there will be war continuously. So what the reason I'm saying is this: in the Somali region and the Afar region, I'm just giving an example that there is no issue whatsoever. There's no, I'm taking away from the Amhara and the Tigray conflict.
Mm.
And I'm taking you to Somali region's conflict and Afar region's conflict. There's areas that Somalis think that they are their land and their Somalis live, but they are part of the Afar region. The Somalis there has been suffering for years through the Afar administration. There is killings continuously daily. So that conflict, if there is the state supposed to be the one that who finalize decision making process, that kind of conflict should not be continued. So similar conflicts happen everywhere. So even though there's a political conflict, there is a social conflict that's happening that we need to address. So if we are talking about peace and reconciliation in Ethiopia, and which our topic we selected today is, then we need to go back to the root cause of the problem, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's state that does not enforce the constitution, whether there is international direct international community interferences. So overall, we need to rethink what the conflict is, and before we even start anything, we have to agree that where is this conflict start. I give the floor, yield back to you.
Well, you took it to the broader question now. Yeah, which is interrelated. Um, well, I'm not saying that in our history, in the Ethiopian history, um, war is not the first one. I didn't say that. In my lifetime, we have seen many wars, many conflicts. But the distinction now is, even though we had a war, it has been with the professional army, which is commanded by the government, and the insurgents. Like we fought 30 years war with Eritrea. Okay,
Mhm.
we always forget that
Yeah.
so many people died for Eritrea, because we believe that Eritrea is our soul, because it's Red Sea, it's two ports are there. When we lose Eritrea, now under 10 million people are without landlocked. That's a big deal economically. Nobody tells you and calculates you and tells you, but economically, security wise, and everything has changed since then. So there was a reason to fight, and we fought. We lost 1991. We had 17 years fight with TPLF before they came into power. And the Somali conflict, we have at least 2, 3 major wars. Usually the Ethio-Somali will have direct implication when we have a problem with Somalia proper. That comes through, all these after colonial era border issues. That is a cause for fighting in every African country. We are not immune from that. So the British, the Italians, and others, France, left Africa after so many years of colonization. They created a border issue deliberately so that you fight each other as a community. And because of that, the Somalia have always 5-star in their banner, in their national flag, which they claim Djibouti, they claim the Ethiopian Somalia land, they claim part of the Kenyan, Somaliland, uh, and so on and so forth. So we can argue on history, how that happened in the first place. Why were the Somalis divided? And you get from different nations, but we are not different from any other country. Communities, you could see some Maasai people crossing Ethiopia. You could see some other the Borona people in Kenya. And historically, if you are trying to argue, we're going to stay there forever.
Yeah,
But
but in terms of the within the context of Ethiopia, if
yeah, with
the
the
Somali
context of
region is in
Ethiopia,
peace right now,
well, peace. Ethiopia was
this
not honestly.
relative to what's happening right
Yeah,
now.
Ethiopia has, from my knowledge, the problem is even as a neighboring countries, East Africans, instead of waging a war and trying to create insurgencies in your own land, what the not only Somalia proper before during Said Barre and before, and even Sudan, since it shared some claim of land from Ethiopia, they always support insurgencies. So the TPLF, the ELF, the Eritrea Liberation Front, and every government opponents were trained and supplied from Sudan. And we have been fighting with so many elements for long. So this is unfortunate history, but when you have a border demarcation recognized by the United Nations, you have to live with it. We have issue, you got to go to the UN, to the proper channel if you have any claim and ask for reconsideration. But when you try to remake the border, no matter what happens before in our history, when you try to take it by force, and the other party will try to protect its interests by force, when you try to train insurgencies to function there, the other party will do the same thing. That's what happened. That's how
Yeah.
Said Barre failed.
No,
That's what
but
Said Barre failed.
so within that context, I'm talking within the
Yeah,
context of peace right now. There is every action, there's a reaction. That's what you just said. It.
equal and
Yeah.
yeah, equal.
So, but right now, this we are in this, and there is a root cause of a lot of broader issues. That's why I just say that the reason we are having this conversation is that the Ethiopian government right now announced that they will engage. They want to do start a dialogue, national dialogue of peace,
Mhm.
and whatever they want to define. But within this national dialogue, we talked about there is border issues, but the border issues right now it looks like it's not obvious as it was before. Yes, there is the Egypt and Sudan issue that
Yeah.
can create more conflict. I'm just saying the existential conflict that is not internal. But when it comes to the conflict in Ethiopia right now, the TPLF and the government of Ethiopia um, and the international community, if Ethiopians are solving this problem collectively, where what is the role for individuals like us, what is the role for average citizens, and what is the role for the government, what's the role for the government, what can the government by itself say that this is what we're going to do and get the usual suspect bring it to the table and expect different results. Do those if there's national dialogue, do TBLF and others be included? What do they have a role? Are other Tigrayans have a role in this? So just coming back to the narrow aspect, because we look at the broader aspect of the conflict, which I think we touched the basis, but we don't want to go deep into it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right now on this one,
Yeah, I heard that the government is planning to have a national dialogue for peace and reconciliation. Uh, the name is attractive and which is good, but uh, will the government be serious to accommodate every stakeholder, regardless of what their way of thinking could be, is a main thing. And the other thing is, could the government be trusted to lead this reconciliation and national reconciliation by itself? I doubt on that. The reason that I say I have a doubt is, unfortunately, one of the problem that we are having, leaving the problem of other insurgencies, which is critical, if we focus only on the government side, and they don't tolerate dissent. This government is, they don't tolerate dissent at all. And if you don't tolerate dissent, if you don't tolerate journalists to speak their mind, if you put them in jail for writing something criticizing the prime minister, which is their profession, which is their right to comment. If somebody is in power and he's afraid of criticism, shouldn't be in power in the first place. If you are the leader, you should be able, you should be tolerant to get the hit. You have to be broad skin. You don't have to be sensitive. Somebody calls you, and you don't expect that everybody likes you. Those people are in the old days who are monarchs and successful dictators who manage to crush every dissent and control by fist. But where we are now, when we have a lot of problem everywhere, in every direction of Ethiopia, this is a time that the Ethiopians should be united and save their country, bring peace and reconciliation, and move on. While you need a lot of support from different people, you don't create enemies by arresting your political opponents in the name of anything, emergency decree or anything. You don't. When you put people in jail, you should have a valid information of intelligence to suspect them, to put them in jail. You don't crash, you don't try to crash. I've seen them when there was a crisis in Amhara region years ago, 2011, the Ethiopian calendar, when the Amhara president and others were assassinated. Other political parties, opposition political party leaders, some of them were arrested. Some journalists were arrested. Had nothing to do with that sort of conflict. And we have seen a lot of people who have been arrested for something they never had any relationship with what they have been accused. I can give names and names, lists and lists, and they are doing it now. So a government who has very sensitive and they are intolerant of any dissent, to try to bring other parties, what is the negotiated? To negotiate, you have to have a party who are against you. You don't bring your own people and say, let's negotiate. What are you going to negotiate with your own people? Your supporters are your supporters, no matter what. And we know them. We know which political parties are pro-government. We know which political parties have their conscience for the people. But let the people judge. So in order to succeed on national dialogue, there must be a neutral body who can manage it, who can lead this process. It could be elders, scholars, civil rights people, human rights people, who have, or religious leaders, if we get some people, at least I'm very doubtful these days. We really, we're out of option of naming people who can be neutral and live for their conscience. And a lot of people are becoming so much consumed with their own thought and siding one group over the other. That's not going to help to rescue our country. We need to be truthful. We need to bring justice. We need to bring every party together. And there are, from the literature, I got that 4 steps for reconciliation. The first thing is, the first step is communication. You need to start communicating each other. We are in the same boat. We are in the same country, whether we like it or not, despite political differences. If we do not open communication, if we close communication, you don't start anything else. So the first step of any conflict resolution is communication. The second step is active listening of one another, listening on the other side. If you ask now who is fighting on the other side, on the TPLF side, they will tell you that they are encircled, they are in existential threat, people are suffocated, they want to kill us. When you go to the Amara region, they will tell you the same story. When you go to the federal government, the same story. Everybody has his own history. Fear, mistrust. They're going to destroy us. They're going to kill us. We got to avoid, if there is mistrust, there is nothing you can do to resolve. For that, you have to listen each other. What's your side? What's my side? What's the other side? And there's only one truth, absolute truth. There could be relative truth, but there's only one absolute truth. And we figure out and listen each other's pain. And the third one is review options. Okay, once you listen each other, once you open up communication, okay, what option we have? Do we have to be separated? Is that an option? Is it good for Tigray? Is it good for the Somali region or Oromia region or Amara region? Or our destiny is together, better off to be together? Or if you have to destined to be together, what do you want from me? What I want from you? How do we coexist? How do we live together? What are the options for that? 1, 2, 3, spell it out. Okay, how do you resolve it? Then the final one, you come to the conclusion, end with a win-win solution. Win-win solution means no one group is going to win alone.
Okay.
So
basically, you pointed out the reconciliation, general reconciliation. But because I don't want to today our conversation to be too long, we already take 6 minutes over. Okay. Here's the points that need to be reconsidered. Yes, I agree with you. The government alone should not be the ones that who are doing this and leading it. And then, yes, I agree with you on the other hand that a lot of people that who we respected before their opinion is one-sided. And sometimes they are more fundamentalist than the average people. Mm-hmm. And they are sometimes putting gas to a fire. So, which is a big problem. So we need to stay back. If you are thinking about peace and reconciliation and peace building, we need to rethink that. First of all, who's the parties that are in conflict and what is their conflict? So the parties that are in conflict are politicians, and what's their conflict? It's power. We agree on that one. So let's not. And then, if honestly, God, the way I see it, Ethiopia's conflict right now is less than 50 people are involved in this conflict, and whatever they say, that's the 5 or 10 people that were surrounded with the prime minister's office and others, a few military leaders, and just because whatever reason they had a conflict with the TPLF leadership, the whole country is burning because of a few people that you can handfully or two hands you can count what their political agenda is. The other regional administrations, they just basically the drum beats. Whatever comes from down there, that's the one they're beating. I've seen it that the Amhara region, how within 3 years how it transformed itself. I've seen how welcoming was Johar's and the Oromo people when he came, and the OLF and others who came. When there was the country was taking a serious direction. I've seen it what happened to the ONLF and everything else. But unless the people has been educated, unless people understand what's happening, unless the government understands that the decision, they don't make every decision for the country, and this country belongs to everybody. And if everybody belongs to it, then we have to have a collective solution. The collective solution that people that who can say, Mr. Prime Minister, what you are doing is wrong. You have to stop. People who can say that the TBLF, what you are doing is unacceptable and you have to stop. If you are telling that the international community should not interfere, Ethiopian, conflict, and Ethiopian conflict should be the Ethiopians should be solving it, then you have the government have to listen to the Ethiopians that who are speaking loud and clear, saying that this has to stop, this has to have a political solution needs a political conflict needs a political solution. If there's external people that who are fighting, if the TPLF is the ones that who are the problem of Ethiopia, all of us unified has to fight, and no region should be spared for that fight. Period. If this war is that the government of Ethiopia's prime minister is doing something wrong, all Ethiopians have to unite, say that Mr. Prime Minister, no, this is wrong. So there's no either or. Yes, you say that there's a win-win situation, but in Ethiopian politics, we saw that it's always zero-sum game. Either we win, everything one have to win, and that's it. Either we have to destroy the so-called Wayani, or either we have to destroy the so-called junta, or whatever the names that they know how to call names so easily and label people. But it's time, and for my opinion, it's time for all grievance in Ethiopia need to be addressed. It's time for real reconciliation. And I think there is no better time than now, in my humble opinion. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, thank you, Yasin. Yeah, you're right. The problem is complex, and it's not only confined with the TPLF versus the federal government. As you said it correctly, the contradictions, the killings, the displacement, even the famine now is looming on so many regions, including your region, the Somali region.
Somali region right now.
Yeah. So yeah, the problem is all round. That's why we need to have the all round conflict resolution. But for this, the government is not going to do it, as you said it correctly, by itself. It has to be pressure to do it. That pressure has to come not from USA or the Western world or China or anybody else. It has to come from the people, from our own people. But the international community can play a role, because sometimes if Ethiopia fails, the whole region will fail. There's no doubt about it. The whole region will fail. This is 110 million people. This is the second populous country in Africa. Ethiopia is not a small country. It binded a lot of regional, especially Horn of African states together. And if Ethiopia fails, the human toll, the explosion of people, economic devastation, the security situation, and Eritrea is involved on this conflict. Djibouti will be involved because that's a place where whole international power are seated. Somalia, you know it, already is in trouble. Kenya cannot be spared. So Sudan, you see already it's engulfing. So it's going to be a catastrophe for the international community. So it's the international community's interest to create stable peace in that region. Sometimes people, I don't want to go into that argument now because we don't have time, but to say that they help this, they are against us. Well, Yan is saying that America is against us now. Uh, some Ethiopians, I see them saying that too. But we should be our situation has to be molded or solved by our own action. The international community may help, sometimes in a negative way, sometimes in a positive way. But I hope mostly they will be in a positive way. The peace and stability is everybody's interest. They may have their own national interest. They may not like one former prime minister or the other. That's some other issue. But they know Ethiopians. They like Ethiopia.
Yeah.
They have interest in the region. That's Red Sea. That's the Indian Ocean. They don't want to mess up that area. So I think we need this type of discussions and debate has to continue, not only by us, by other groups also. It doesn't matter how some people will perceive it. I sometimes feel sorry, or I sometimes get angry when some people say, when you try to talk about peace, they give you a name, or they don't understand what you are talking about. Is tells you your those guys naivety, not our side. This peace has to be forged as soon as possible, and we need to do more. And we need to encourage other medias also to debate, to talk, and elders, scholars, and others. I think this is a time to step up and say enough is enough. Let's sit down and resolve our differences.
Yeah, thank you. That we will leave it out there. You're right in terms of the Somali region and the rest of Ethiopia. There's a lot of droughts, especially the Somali region. So and we cannot talk about this kind of issues when there's a war happening. It's time for us to rethink what we wanted, and I think we challenge other Ethiopians to step up and come to the table and make sure that we pressure our government that there should be a peace and reconciliation immediately, and whatever that direction is, the government should not be the one that was leading it, but the government should be a partners for a selective group of people. That is two things that I think we can agree each other.
The pressure should go to both sides. The TPL has to be pressured too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have to be pressured equally, because the consequence has to be there. If they don't come up for the peace, if they want, if the killings of their own people and the destruction of their community doesn't give them any sense, they should be accountable by in the eyes of those mediators and the international community, and
No,
they should be equally responsible for that.
that's the bottom line is the government of Ethiopia is not the primary caregiver of Ethiopia,
I know.
and if another group is trying to destroy that country, then it's the responsibility of all of us to stand together. But we need to know clearly what the goal and objectives of this government is, because this government is accountable to the people. So that's why the responsibility we are pushing more to the government. Then a unified country can defeat anybody. But if we are divided, everybody's divided, then there shouldn't be any kind of dialogue. But with that, we want to make sure that all Ethiopians who care about the stability of the country and the region to collectively come together and it's time for a serious dialogue. Atnafu, if you want to add something, you
No,
can
that's
add.
fine. Thank you very much. We talked enough, I guess. It's 40 something minutes. That
Yeah,
should be enough for today, and we'll continue every week as much as possible. And
we'll broaden the
we'll
topics as
bring
well.
other people too
Yeah.
to join us on this broad discussion about our country. We need to talk. And thank you for facilitating this, Yasin, as usual. Appreciate that you invited me.
No, thank you very much, and see you until next Monday. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.